Welcome to Teshar's Thunder. As far as opening hand goes, yeah, we've got one land in the hand. Let's go on Mulligan. Not super wild about that. We have 3 lands with a scry land and another artifact. Yeah, I think we can keep on this one. I like that. Now, let's see what the scry is. Shields. Do we want that at this point right now for Teshar? I'd love to have that. It's something that'd be great to draw into, but let's see if we can't hit another land or something like that. Let's go and lead off with Void. Let's go and get the scry going. The Scurry, the Fever, Plains. Yeah, we're going to put that on top of our library. And then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. See, send hello. Best of luck. Get that chat closed down. But yes, we are playing Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. It's going to be 4 total converted mana costs. Flying, whenever you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's going to be artifacts, legendaries, and sagas will be considered historic. Let's go ahead and get down Plains, and we'll go ahead and go for... Yeah, let's go for Salvage Scout, I think. Yeah, we'll get down Salvage Scout. We'll get on Umazama's Jitte. We can get that down next turn. Or if we want to Flash and Shimmer Mirror, we can actually end up going for that. And then we'll go and kick it over to our opponent. We're playing against Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Hopefully he's not going to steal a bunch of our Teshar shiny things out of our nest. Death Touch, whenever Gonti enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of those cards face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. And then they may spend their manas or any color to cast that spell. Look at this, look at that Charcoal Diamond, that art, wow. It's the first time I've seen that one. That is very interesting art. Let's go to get the Plains down. Anything we want to go for at this point. We can go for Uzama's Jitte if we wanted to. Or we can simply just Flash and Shimmer Mirror if we need to get something out of the graveyard. And let's do this. Let's just go ahead and... yeah, let's just go and hold on right now. There's some times where if you don't really have that explosive a hand with Teshar, it's almost better to kind of hold on to some of these artifacts so you can kind of get some of these chains going. Like I said, we don't really have the graveyard established at this point right now, so hopefully we'll get something going. If we can draw into something like Skull Clamp, that would be really good for us because we can actually start clamping it onto something like Salvage Scout, start casting some of these artifacts to bring it back, and then start drawing a bunch of cards. Let's go and tap out for Teshar. Yeah, I think I like that. Let's tap out for Teshar. We did draw into Aetherflux Reservoir. It's definitely one of the win conditions for the deck, so I'll kind of explain how we get that going here in a second. But yeah, with Aetherflux Reservoir, we do have 2 different mirrors in here. And as far as you can kind of get to the point where you end up with this combo. So you end up with Clark Clan Ironworks, or KCI. I'm going to call it KCI for the rest of the video. So you get KCI onto the battlefield. You sacrifice the Perilous Mirror. I think that's the name of it. It's going to deal 2 damage to target, to any target. And it goes to the graveyard. Then you cast Mirror Retriever. It's going to enter the battlefield. You return Perilous Mirror back to your hand. You sacrifice the Mirror Retriever to KCI. You're going to add that 2 mana to your mana pool. And then you kind of keep going from there. So it's a way for you to kind of keep looping that ability, returning that creature card out of the graveyard. All right, drawn to Recruiter of the Guard. That is absolutely wonderful. Let's go and get Plains down. Let's go and go for Recruiter, and let's go and go for Stoneforge Mystic. I think that sounds really good. Good luck. All right, we're gonna have Recruiter of the Card enter the battlefield. I think I said Recruiter of the Card. I'm gonna say Recruiter of the Guard. Let's go and grab Stoneforge Mystic off this one. Where are you? There we are. Let's grab Stoneforge Mystic. Let's get down Stoneforge. And this is pretty much what you want to do. You know, most of the times we have different lines of play to get down Stoneforge Mystic, but the main thing is you want to get Skull Clamp going because you end up with a lot of 1/1 creatures. Let's get this popped out because I do not want to click on the wrong thing. I guess technically we could go for Sword of Feast and Famine if we wanted to, but we just don't really have anything to do at this point right now. So let's go and go for Skull Clamp, and then nothing else for 1. We're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. So once we get Skull Clamp onto the battlefield, we can start putting it onto stuff like Recruiter of the Guard, Salvage Scout. Those are going to go into the graveyard. Then when you simply just cast Aetherflux Reservoir, you're going to be able to bring that back to the battlefield. So simply putting on Recruiter of the Guard, it's going to come back, get that enter the battlefield trigger, so we can kind of start searching up some of our key combo pieces. So Skull Clamp kind of acts as an additional card draw source, but it also acts as a little bit of a sack outlet, which if you're playing mono white, it's a little hard to get some good sack outlets going sometimes. So, but I really love this deck. It's a lot of fun to play, and especially when you're playing against Gonti or something like this. We don't really have a... You know, typically when you're playing Gonti, if you play whatever deck you're playing against, your deck becomes an extension of their deck. So when Gonti becomes an extension of our deck, they're just grabbing a bunch of random artifacts. It may not be that good for them. So we'll see what they end up getting off of this flip. They will end up with 2 flips off thanks to that minion reflector though. Okay, so our opponent does end up taking, and actually... Oh, okay, no, we do have 2 cards in the face down zone. Opponent's going to go for Dead Man's Chest on Salvage Scout. Okay. Now, I think, actually, with them putting Dead Man's Chest on Salvage Scout, once we do end up putting Skull Clamp on there, that will actually get around the Dead Man's Chest activated ability, because it's equal to its, no, excuse me, its power. So that actually still have power of, +2 on that one. And they sacrifice the non-existent Gonti trigger. So they did take 2 cards from us. The only thing that we really concerned about in this deck, we do have a few creatures that recur stuff out of the graveyard, but the fact that we just drew into Ironworks, we have Aether Flux in the hand and Skull Clamp, this is pretty much what we need to kind of set up a good combo off. So, in fact, let's go and go for Skull Clamp, because we want to see if we can't make this land drop. Let's go and swing in for 2. Our opponent has no flyers in the air. That will knock them down to 28, and then we'll see what we can kind of get going as far as on the second May phase, start casting some of that stuff. It would be good to get down Shimmer Mirror, that way we can start flashing some of this stuff in and looping some of these artifacts. It's going to be 2 total commander damage, knocking them down to 28. And then let's go ahead and go for Skull Clamp onto, I guess at this point, we're going to go for Recruiter of the Guard. Yeah, we're going to tap out for 1. We're going to draw 2 cards. Draw into Mara, the Sky Ruin. Anything that we want to flash in at this point, we only have 3 mana. That's going to come into play tapped. We can go and put it onto Salvage Scout if we wanted to, or if we simply just cast an artifact that's going to bring something back out of the graveyard. Yeah, let's go ahead and get down Sky Ruin. Yeah, I'm okay with that. We are a little far away from Plains at this point, but we can get that going. Do we want to go for Skull Clamp on Salvage Scout? Yeah, let's go ahead and go for it. Why not? All right, we're going to go put it on there. They will get a Dead Man's Chest, a little bit of an activated ability. I think they'll get 2 cards off of that. And then we'll see what they get off of that. Okay, we draw into Mind Bear and draw into Mishra's Bauble, which is actually really good. Do we want to cast that at this point right now, just to bring Recruiter of the Guard back out of the graveyard? We can't flash them in, so let's go ahead and go for that. Actually, we'll leave it on. We don't have anything to kind of bounce it back. We can bring it back with Salvage Scout if you wanted to. Yeah, let's go and do that. Let's go and cast Mishra's Bauble. And we're going to go ahead and bring Recruiter of the Guard back. That way we can grab one of our bounce creatures, and that kind of puts us in a spot where we might be able to kind of start looping some of these artifacts. Yes, we're going to use that ability. Let's get this popped out just a little bit bigger. And you know what? Let's go ahead and grab Peerless Mirror. I like that. If we're gonna try and get some good combo stuff going, we're going to get that down. I like going for that one. Let's get down Mishra's Bauble. Let's go and sacrifice it, targeting our opponent. That way we're going to get a look at what the top card of their library is, and we'll be able to draw an additional card at the beginning of their instep. All right, at the beginning of their upkeep. All right, draw into Plains, and then we're going to let them go for the turn. So next turn, we're going to be able to get the Plains down. That's going to be great. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're looking at 7 total mana. We can go and get down Ironworks. We can kind of start sacrificing some of this stuff. Get that Peerless Mirror down. We'll be able to start dealing that 2 damage. Now, as far as looping some of this stuff, I didn't purposely put a ton of combos in here. I know there's a lot of synergy somewhere within these cards. So if I end up missing like an infinite loop or something like that, it's not on purpose. I just personally don't look that first. I'm not looking to do infinite combos first with this particular deck. So, but there's going to be some times where we get down a lot of really good cards. The next thing you know, we're kind of like, oh yeah, okay, we can kind of start looping some of this stuff. But there's been some other games where I've been recording Teshar in that we we kind of get to this point where I just kind of dirtle a bunch and I do a lot of stuff for a couple minutes and then it doesn't really correlate to win or anything, and then I have to pass the turn. And I don't feel bad about it, but I'm just always kind of like, yeah, okay. All right, so our opponent did end up going for Ritual of the Machine, sacrifice it. They gain control of target non-black creature. So at this point right now, we do need to do something to bring Teshar back. Now with Mirror on the battlefield, we can simply just put Skull Clamp on it to get Teshar back. Unfortunately, it will send Teshar back to the command zone. It kind of does complicate us going for a few more activations or something like that. But if our opponent ends up going for Viscera Seer off of Teshar, they can definitely go for that if they want to too. But at least we do have that, oh my god, look at that value. All right, so our opponent ended up stealing a face reward from us. Return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put from the battlefield this turn. So basically what happened is they sacrificed Gonti, Viscera Seer, put it into the graveyard, gain control of Teshar, and then they use face reward to bring it back to the battlefield and they get double minion reflectors. Oh, that is just I'm a little jealous that they were able to pull that play off. God, that was beautiful. Okay, so they're going to take that. Oh, man, that's what makes playing Gonti so much fun, is when stuff like that happens. Oh, man. Okay, let's go and get planes down. We need to get Teshar going back again. Let's get on Peerless Mirror. Let's go and tap out on double colorless. Get the mirror down. Let's go and go for Skull Clamp onto Mirror. That's going to give us 2 card draw, and it's going to give us that 2 damage that we need to deal to bring Teshar back to our side of the battlefield. Sorry, Teshar. We'll see if our opponent's going to go for a Viscera Seer activation in response to that one to get some good value off that Scry. All right, it's going to send Teshar back to the command zone. We're going to draw 2 additional cards. Drawn to Squire and then Lieutenant Qatar. How do we want to sequence this? We do have 4 mana left on the battlefield. Let's do this. Let's go and go for Aether Flux Reservoir. I like that. We're going to get that down. That's going to give us, we have a ton of artifacts in the hand, and maybe we, instead of maybe just comboing off, we can simply just end up with a ton of value. Now, our opponent is sitting at only 1 card in the hand at this point right now, and we've got a full grip. We're looking at 8. We're going to have to discard down to hand size, so we can actually put a good reanimator target into the graveyard if we need to. So let's see what would be best for us. You definitely want to hold on to your artifacts when you get at this point in the game. So at this point, let's go and get rid of Mind Bearer. Actually, Lieutenant Qatar. Yeah, I think I like it. We'll get rid of Lieutenant. No, excuse me, that'll be a historic spell. Let's go and put Squire into the graveyard. Yeah, I like that, because with Squire, that kind of interacts with a pretty cool interaction. So with Squire in the graveyard, whenever it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card with a converting mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So it's going to put us in a spot where we can get down Mishra's Bauble and then kind of start casting that stuff. Now we can start putting that Skull Clamp onto Squire. Unfortunately, it is a 2/2, so we can't really keep getting that loop going. But if we can somehow get into spots where we get Squire coming in and out of the graveyard by casting a 0 artifact like Mishra's Bauble, that'll really kind of help us start getting that Aether Flux Reservoir, getting that kind of that storm count going up really high. Okay, opponent does go for a Viscera Seer activation, sending Gonti back to the command zone, so they'll probably see Gonti coming back down again pretty soon. But yeah, so with Teshar, I played against Teshar, I can't remember what it was like last week, and I was blown away at how fun the deck was. When I originally looked at Teshar, I was like, man, that didn't really look like it would be that fun, or it's going to be hard to kind of get that satisfy Teshar's ability, make it really that strong. And after I played against that person's deck, I can't remember who they were, I was just like, wow, this is a really fun deck. It's kind of like you're playing Aristocrats and kind of like Eggs or something like that. It's like a combination of that. And I don't know, it just it's a really rich gameplay experience. I love decks that just are really fun to operate, and especially decks like Teshar, when I mentioned earlier, where you just end up kind of dirtling for 5 minutes and nothing really happens, and you have to pass the turn. I don't know, it's still fun, and it's also kind of interesting to kind of be like, okay, you're trying to figure out. It's almost kind of like trying to figure out a puzzle. At what point can we create this loop or something like that. Opponent's going to get down Lightning Greaves, and that was actually owned by us, so that they did steal Lightning Greaves off of one of our flips, so I'll definitely take that one. See what we draw into. Draw into another plane. Just going to get that down. We are getting pretty close to the Sky Ruin being able to bring stuff out of the graveyard. Let's go and go for Teshar. That's going to be, I have to tap out for 6 on this one. That's going to be colorless, 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be 1 life gain that we're going to get off Aether Flux Reservoir. We will be able to get start working towards getting our life total going. And at this point right now, what are we going to do? So we can go for Skull Clamp to draw an additional card. That's going to be tapping out. We won't be able to cast anything else. If we simply just get down to Uazama's Jitte, that's going to bring 1 more creature card out of the graveyard. We can bring that Squire back, which will allow us to bring back Mishra's Bauble to kind of start looping some stuff next turn if we wanted to go for Ironworks. I think I like that. Let's go. Yeah, that way we can get. Yeah, I think I like. Let's go and go for Uazama's Jitte. Let's go and get that down. That's going to trigger Aether Flux Reservoir. Let's go and bring Squire back. Now we do have Phyrexian Altar in here, so we get into spots where if we get down KCI and Phyrexian Altar, we can start sacrificing some of these creatures to get that mana going. So we're going to go and bring back Mishra's Bauble. We're going to gain 2 more life off of that one. Get down to Uazama's Jitte. And then anything else, I'm just going to go past it. We're going to go to hold on to Bauble at this point right now, because I do want to get down Ironworks. I want to be able to cast stuff for free. Well, actually, if we just simply get down Bauble and we cast Ironworks, well, we'll be bringing our creature back. So yeah, we'll go and hold on to Bauble. We're going to go and press the turn to our opponent. But yeah, as far as if you're going to be building your own Teshar deck, it's kind of one of those decks to where you can't get really super creative with Teshar. You're typically going to have a lot of the same kind of value stuff. Our opponent's deck that we played, they had Lieutenant in there and sacrifice an exile target attacking creature. Now, since we do have a lot of sack outlets in here, stuff like Phyrexian Altar, and there's a couple different white enchantments that do have a sack outlet, it's also really good to kind of run stuff like Fiend Hunter, because that's going to enter the battlefield. It's going to have that delayed trigger. Mirror. So you can exile target creature, and then in response to that target, you can sacrifice Fiend Hunter, send it to the graveyard, and then have it permanent exile. So that's another good thing that you can kind of get going. I did have, I think her name's Magarda or something like that, where you can exile target permanent. I was like, yeah, this will work really good in there. And then I realized when you bring her back, she doesn't have haste. I was like, okay, it's a little slow on that one. I was going to get down high market. Yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and let's go and tap out for Ironworks. That way we can bring Mirror back. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 1 Aether Flux Reservoir trigger. And let's go and bring back Peerless Mirror. Okay, let's go and sacrifice Peerless Mirror. We're going to deal... yeah, let's do that. We're going to add that 2 mana to our mana pool. We're going to 2 damage up top. It's going to put them down to 26. Let's go and cast Mishra's Bauble. So we're going to get the Aether Flux Reservoir. Let's go and bring Peerless Mirror back to the battlefield. Let's go ahead and sacrifice Peerless Mirror. It's going to deal 2 more damage up there. It's going to put them down to 24. Let's go ahead and go for Shimmer Mirror. We're going to bring back Peerless Mirror back to the battlefield. And I may end up kind of speeding this up just a little bit. We're going to go for Junk Driver, bringing back Mishra's Baubles back to the hand. We're going to send that 2 damage up top. Okay, there we go. So we actually had the loop right there as Junk Diver and Mishra's Bauble. So it's going to gain a little bit extra life. That's going to put us up to 57. We're going to get the Bauble down, and we're going to be able to go for that Aether Flux Reservoir activation, activating the can. There we go. Put our opponent down to negative 28. Good game to our opponent. Like I mentioned earlier, sorry, I've played a lot of games with this deck, and kind of figuring out the different loops that we can end up going for. It's a little slow on that one, but I ended up kind of figuring it out. So long story short, what ended up happening is, since we did have Junk Diver in our hand, so we can get that down, cast that one. Whatever it dies, we sacrifice it to KCI. That's going to add 2 mana to our mana pool. Once we get on Mishra's Bauble, we can be able to bring that back into our hands. This is a 0 converted mana cost. What's going to end up happening is we can cast Bauble, sacrifice it, add that 2 mana to our mana pool, and then bring back Junk Diver and get that Storm Loop kind of going up for Aether Flux Reservoir. Now, there are a few other combos we can get going with the deck, including Peerless Mirror, but we ended up kind of settling into that Junk Diver and Mishra's Bauble, giving us more than enough to go for an Aether Flux Reservoir and kind of give us a pretty good chunk of mana. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.